At the very edge of death, something extraordinary happens to some people. A climber, alone and freezing near the summit, exhausted past the point of thought, suddenly becomes aware that he is not alone. Someone is climbing beside him. He can't see them clearly, but he feels them with total certainty. A calm, steady, benevolent presence, matching his pace step for step. And the presence speaks, or seems to. It tells him not to give up. It tells him where to put his feet. It keeps him moving when every part of his body wants to lie down in the snow and stop. Hours later, when he finally staggers to safety, the presence is gone. And only then does he realize the truth. There was never anyone there. This is not a rare hallucination from a single unlucky mind. It has been reported again and again by people pushed to the absolute limit of survival. Mountaineers near the summit, sailors adrift alone, polar explorers, shipwreck survivors, people lost in deserts and disasters. At the edge of death, an unseen companion arrives, steady, comforting, real enough to feel, real enough to save their lives. And when the danger passes, the companion vanishes. It has a name. It's called the third man factor, from a famous expedition where the survivors, counting themselves afterward, kept arriving at one more member than had actually been there. And it points to something that turns everything we've explored on this channel on its head. Because until now, we've seen the mind fill the dark with monsters. Here, at the very edge, it does the opposite. It fills the dark with a guardian. And the reason it does, the reason your brain may be built to conjure a rescuer when you are closest to death, is one of the strangest and most moving things we'll ever look at. This is TheLiminal. Step into the space between. The companion at the edge. The accounts are remarkably consistent, and they come from people who had never heard of the phenomenon before it happened to them. They describe a presence, almost always felt rather than clearly seen, that appears when a person is alone, exhausted, and in extreme danger. It is not frightening. That's the first striking thing. Given everything we know about how the mind fills emptiness with threat, you'd expect a dying, terrified brain to produce horrors. Instead, the third man is overwhelmingly kind. It is calm where the person is panicking. It is strong where they are failing. It radiates reassurance and often a quiet authority, as though it knows the way out and the person only has to listen. And it doesn't just keep them company. It intervenes. Survivors describe the presence giving concrete, practical guidance, telling them to get up, to keep moving, to take a specific route, to hold on just a little longer. Some describe a voice. Some describe only a wordless knowing, an instruction that arrives fully formed in the mind. People have credited the third man with saving their lives, and in many cases, it's hard to argue. The presence supplied exactly the calm, focused encouragement that carried them through when their own conscious will had collapsed. Explorers wrote about it long before it had a name. Climbers on the highest peaks have described the extra companion roped invisibly to their line. Solo sailors, ferrying themselves across oceans, have felt someone else take the helm. Survivors of the September 11th attacks, descending endless smoke-filled stairwells, have described a calm presence guiding them down. Across utterly different disasters, in people who share nothing but the experience of being pushed to the absolute limit, the same figure keeps appearing. The unseen companion is one of the most widely reported experiences at the border of death. And that consistency is the clue that it isn't random, that it's coming from something deep in how the human mind is built. The presence the brain can summon. So where does the companion come from? To begin answering that, we can look at a stranger fact. Scientists have, on occasion, been able to produce the feeling of a presence deliberately. We met this idea in a darker form once already. In sleep paralysis, the brain's threat detection system fires without a trigger, generating the raw, overwhelming feeling that someone is here, and the terrified mind sculpts a shadow to match it. The felt presence is not, at its root, a perception of anything outside you. It's a sensation the brain can generate on its own, the pure feeling of another being nearby, manufactured internally, with no one actually there. And it turns out this sensation can be switched on. In laboratory settings, when researchers interfere with specific regions of the brain involved in telling self from other and mapping the body in space, people suddenly report exactly this: the vivid, unshakable feeling of a presence just behind them or beside them. A shadowy someone, felt but unseen. No ghost, no visitor, just the brain's own map of another being nearby, being triggered directly, and the person feeling with complete conviction that they are not alone. This tells us something crucial. The felt presence is a real, built-in capacity of the human brain, a specific circuit that produces the experience of companionship of another mind close by. It can misfire in the terror of the paralyzed bedroom, and it can be switched on artificially in a lab. So the deep question about the third man isn't whether the brain can generate a presence. We know it can. The question is why, at the very edge of death, it generates a presence that is not a monster, but a savior. And why it arrives exactly when a person needs saving most. Why the mind sends a rescuer. Here we move from what we know into the realm of careful theory. But the theories are compelling, and they converge. Think about the conditions that summon the third man: extreme isolation, physical exhaustion beyond anything ordinary life produces, monotonous, punishing environments, endless snow, endless ocean, endless dark, cold, hunger, oxygen starvation, sensory deprivation, and crushing, sustained stress with death pressing close. Under that specific combination, the brain is doing everything it can to keep the body alive. And one of the things it appears to reach for is this: it produces a companion. Why would that help? Consider what a calm, encouraging companion actually does for a person on the edge of collapse. It regulates panic. A steady presence beside you is one of the most powerful ways to calm a terrified nervous system, which is exactly why we reach for each other in crisis. It supplies motivation from outside when the will has failed. It breaks the deadly spiral of isolation and hopelessness that kills people in survival situations as surely as the cold does. In the most desperate moment, when a person's own exhausted mind is telling them to give up and lie down, the brain may generate a second voice, externalized, calm, authoritative, to say the thing the failing self can no longer say. Get up, keep going, you can make it. In other words, the third man may be a survival mechanism. When you are alone and dying, and your own resolve has run out, the brain does the one thing that has always given humans strength in crisis. It gives you someone else. It splits off a portion of your own mind, your own deeper knowledge of how to survive, your own buried reserves of calm, and presents it to you as a separate, comforting being walking at your side. The guidance the presence gives is guidance you already hold. The strength it lends is your own strength, handed back to you in a form you can finally accept because it seems to come from someone stronger than the broken person you've become. The companion, in this reading, is you, the best of you, the part that still knows the way, stepping outside so it can reach the part that's about to quit. The guardian and the ghost. Now stand this beside the very first threshold we explored, because together they reveal something profound about the human mind. In sleep paralysis, safe in your own bed, the felt presence circuit fires and your brain builds a demon, a shadow, an intruder, a thing that means you harm. At the edge of survival, freezing on a mountain, the same circuit fires and your brain builds a guardian, a companion, a protector, a thing that wants you to live. The identical raw sensation, someone is here, produces a monster in one case and a saviour in the other. What decides which one you get? The context does. The mind reads the situation and dresses the presence to fit. In the bedroom, jolted awake in the dark and flooded with unexplained fear, the brain interprets the presence through terror, and terror sculpts a demon. On the mountain, in a fight for survival, where what's needed is calm and endurance, the brain interprets the presence through the will to live, and that will sculpt a guardian. The presence itself is neutral, a blank capacity for another being nearby. Your circumstances decide whether it saves you or haunts you. This is the deepest thing this channel keeps uncovering, shown now in its most dramatic form. Your experience of reality is not a recording of what's out there. It is built, moment to moment, by a mind that fills the gaps according to your state. Frightened, it fills the dark with threat. Fighting to live, it fills the dark with help. The same machinery, the same empty room, and two utterly opposite visitors, chosen entirely by the mind that's doing the building. You are not just perceiving your world, you are authoring it, and never more nakedly than at the threshold of death, where the author steps out from behind the curtain and walks beside you in the snow. The stranger who is you. So what do we make of the unseen companion, the presence that has saved real lives, that arrives exactly when hope runs out, that vanishes the moment safety returns? You could see it as proof of something watching over us. Many who felt it come away certain of exactly that, and this channel won't take that from anyone. The experience is real, it is profound, and for the person living it, the comfort is not diminished one bit by knowing where it comes from. But there is another way to hold it, and it may be even more astonishing than a guardian angel. It is the possibility that in your darkest, most desperate hour, when you are alone at the end of your strength, some deep part of your own mind is capable of standing up, stepping outside you, and becoming the companion you need, capable of taking your own buried wisdom and courage and handing them back to you in the shape of a stranger who refuses to let you die. That means the strength that saves you was always yours. The calm voice on the mountain telling you to keep going was your own. The presence roped to your line, the one that knew the way down, was the part of you that never gave up, made real and external and undeniable, because that was the only way the rest of you could still hear it. At the final threshold, the mind that spends every ordinary day quietly building your reality performs its most extraordinary act. It builds you a rescuer out of your own will to live.
We are, all of us, capable of that. It sleeps in the same machinery that fills a dark bedroom with a shadow, that stamps a false memory onto a passing moment, that wipes a thought in a doorway. The same mind that can frighten you in the night can, at the very end, save your life by giving you a companion who is all along no one but yourself.
Outro. The guardian in the snow, the demon in the bedroom, the haunted hour, the face that's almost right. Every one of them comes back to the mind that builds your world. It fills the empty spaces according to who you are and what you need. And at the threshold, you can finally see it working. There are more edges to cross. The empty room that feels wrong the instant you enter it. The lonely places, folklore filled with danger. The crossroads, the forest's edge. The rituals every culture built to carry us safely across the great thresholds of a life. We'll open each of them in turn. If this moved you, or gave you a new way to understand the companion at the edge, subscribe and stay with us. New documentaries every Wednesday and Saturday. There's a whole country at the edge of consciousness, and almost no one ever maps it. This is TheLiminal. Step into the space between.